Jeff and Dustin here with some late-breaking news. Dustin, apparently I get to do something I've always wanted to do.
What's that, Jeff?
Get to say I told you so to the entire internet.
Now, hold on a second. We told you so.
That is correct.
Why don't you care to explain to the fans what we're talking about?
We are going to talk about the shit reviews that Batman vs. Superman, Dawn of JustASS is getting.
And there are a lot of them.
Yeah, it's sitting at, what, a 40% rotten right now on Rotten Tomatoes?
It's about as bad as you can get.
Is there a worse Batman movie on Rotten Tomatoes next to Batman and Robin?
You know, I didn't go in and look. My experience with Batman films is just the Nolan trilogy. So, yeah.
Well, at least you started out on a high note.
So what do we got? What are the reviewers saying?
Well, it looks like they're saying that the movie's overly long, doesn't hit the point. The fight scenes are too short. It's pretty much every fear that a DC fan has. It's now officially confirmed.
No, right. And these aren't just people like us, just normal people that get online and talk shit. These are people who have seen hundreds, if not thousands, of films, and it is their job, their livelihood, to give fair assessments of film.
So now you had some exact quotes. Would you care to share those with listeners?
Oh, absolutely. You and I went through and we pilfered the internet, trying to pull from the best reviewers, trying to see common themes, and I have some of those here. Tim Grierson from the New Republic, the title of his review is Battle of the Boars. He says, Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice is a joyless slog, filled with scenes of gloomy characters confronting their demons or wrestling with their insipid moral quandaries. It's not a superhero so much as it is an excruciating therapy session in which there are occasionally huge explosions and guys in capes. He adds, it's indigestible, posturing, 2.5-hour mope fest. And referring to what we're all watching for, he says, as a battle, it's hardly royale, and it's justified with such a lame plot point that the whole skirmish could have been avoided if one character simply said one specific thing to the other. He gave it a C-. Now, Mara Reinstein from US Weekly, the title of her review was 151 minutes of gloom and doom. She says, not only is this the anti-Deadpool, it takes itself more seriously than a Best Picture Oscar winner. Director Zack Snyder shows no mercy in throwing a slew of disconnected scenes at the audience. He botches the only scene fans truly crave, the fight between the classic superheroes. She ends her review by saying, this franchise desperately needs saving.
Or a reboot already.
Oh, Spider-Man. Now, there's Devin Faraci from Birth Death Movies.
Oh, I'm well aware of Devin Faraci's bitch ass.
Well, you might agree with him on this one. He starts off by saying, this is a very bad movie. Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice contains a major revelation. It isn't that Zack Snyder misunderstands Superman, it's that he actually hates the character. It's almost crazy how flimsy and poorly constructed the first hour of the film is. To say that Batman vs. Superman Dawn of Justice is a bad movie doesn't go far enough. This film feels like Zack Snyder hobbling the entire upcoming DC movieverse before it even gets started. Ooh. Lawrence Topman from the Charlotte Observer titled that a primal, endless scream. Aside from the usual tropes, is there anything more tired than a damsel in distress and a superhero too stupid to see that coming? The script doesn't explain enough, including the fact that Metropolis and Gotham are suddenly a few miles apart. But every time the plot holes open, Snyder ramps the noise and mayhem up 2 or 3 notches, 2 stars.
Well, wait, you're telling me that Gotham and Metropolis are like very close to each other?
Yeah, that's I found that in a couple of reviews that a thing that's baffling people is all of a sudden these 2 giant megacities are like across the river from each other.
That is the dumbest fucking thing. They just turned the DCU into fucking Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Twin Cities, sister city.
This is dumb. It used to be like Metropolis was, I don't know, somewhere in the middle of the country, and Gotham was essentially where New York was.
I was in my head, and you're way more well-versed than I am. I always associated Gotham, obviously, with New York because that's its nickname. And Metropolis I saw almost as like a Los Angeles, just because in my head, 2 biggest cities, 2 biggest heroes, and they're not next to each other. But Snyder's tearing that down. Now, Matt Goldberg from Collider titled his No Heroics. He said, the movie drags through its first hour as it carefully tries to set up the individual conflicts. and yet the only character it seems to actually develop is Bruce Wayne. Unfortunately, it develops him into the worst Batman we have ever seen.
Ooh.
He says, when it comes to Batman, Snyder is still at a loss with what to do with the character. He seems completely unable to relate to anything human in the character and keeps us viewing the Man of Steel at a distance. Watching Snyder struggle so mightily just to bring two characters together, I shudder to think at how he plans to handle Justice League.
See, I'm glad you brought up Collider, because Collider, I follow their YouTube channel, Collider Videos or whatever, and they have a thing called Collider Heroes that comes out each week, and it's hosted by a guy named John Schnepp. And for the listeners, John Schnepp is the guy that directed the documentary, Whatever Happened to the Birth and Death of Superman. Remember that Tim Burton Superman movie they were going to make in the 90s?
With Nick Cage?
Yeah. He made a documentary about that movie, and it's kind of, got him some fame. And it's a great film. I'm not knocking him or his views, but before that film came out, everyone on Collider was praising it. Oh, it's going to be great. Oh, it's going to be great. And all these little tidbits of, dissent from inside of Warner Brothers said otherwise. But now the movie's out, and these people are all saying it's not that good. And I'd like to bring up one more point about this dissension in Warner Brothers. Months ago, actually, I'm going to give you the exact date. On February 11th at 2:35 p.m., a website called HitFix.com reported that the entire DC universe is in jeopardy because Warner Brothers does not like this film. It was reported on by a guy named Drew McWeeny. And
you said weenie.
Hey, you should see this guy. He does look like a weenie, too. He's got glasses and a polo. I mean, he's pretty much like if Toph and Garrett from Chicago had a baby.
Is there a worse combination? No offense, Garrett in Chicago. All offense.
Maybe if Phil and Brian had a baby, it would just be a beard.
Just a big ball of fur.
Oh, God. Anyway, though, this Drew McWeeny thing was a big story. Everyone was reporting it. And then all of a sudden, everyone tried to discredit it because a couple positive tweets came out. Well, I guess Drew McWeeney's going to have the last laugh because all that shit he reported almost over a month ago is now true. So I would love to be a fly on the wall inside of Warner Brothers right now.
And all they're thinking about is cash, which, hey, they're a business. I get that. But you have to have both the art and the product. And they're going to sell the product, but people are going to look at the art and go, oh, do I want any more of this? And that's a huge problem if you're trying to set up your own movieverse.
I think there's going to be a lot of diminishing returns. Let's say this movie makes the same amount of money as Deadpool. So let's say it makes, what, like $750, $800 million worldwide? Yep. I say in America it has a big opening weekend, and then it falls off very fast. Let's say it makes $150 million this weekend. Then I say next weekend it'll make like 65, 70. Because I know a lot of comic book fans don't want to admit this, but positive or negative word of mouth can directly affect your film. And if this is getting shit on so hard prior to release, I think it's just going to continue to fucking roll. And people are just going to be, well, it's so bad, I'll wait for Netflix. Or, I'll just wait for that R-rated cut. Here's another thing. If this version is so fucking bad, this is to you, Warner Brothers, what motivation do I have to go see this film instead of waiting for the R-rated director's cut that'll be out in a few months?
Right. Another thing that I was thinking about is it probably is going to lack a lot of replayability. It's 2.5 hours. And by all accounts, it's not a good film. Now, I know that you and the rest of world-class bullshitters didn't like Star Wars, but I saw it 8 times in films, and most of the people that I know saw it at least 2 or 3 times. I don't see that happening for Batman v Superman.
Oh, I think it's a tone. You have to enjoy yourself. See, you enjoyed yourself because Star Wars was a light, fun romp. It was just, fun in outer space. That's how I felt about the Avengers. I saw the first Avengers 4 times in theaters. It was so much fun. I mean, the first time I saw it, I lost lines in the laughter. It was honestly the best movie-going experience I've ever had in my life. I went with Joel. We sat through the entire Marvel Marathon, and we were with a sold-out theater of just diehard comic book fans. Great experience. I went back and saw it 2 weeks later, just as fun. Saw it a third time, just as fun. And you know what? One night, my friend needed a ride somewhere, and it was going to be a couple hours to pick him up, so I went and saw it a 4th time. It was the perfect balance of fun and rewatchability. Bought it on Blu-ray. I've seen it 10 times since. I'm already tired of this fucking movie, Batman vs. Superman. I haven't even seen it yet.
Oh, you have seen it? Have you watched any of the trailers?
Okay, I lied. I have seen it. I've
Now,
seen those
I've
trailers multiple times.
I have one more review before we take personal jabs at it, really quick. There's this person named Nell Minnow from BeliefNet, and she says it's ponderous, self-important, too long by at least 45 minutes, and do we really need another scene and then another scene of Bruce Wayne's parents being shot? So here's the thing. We make fun of Spider-Man. How many times can you see Uncle Ben die? You're going to see Bruce Wayne's parents die at least 2 more times just in this film, if you haven't already seen it from the Burton films and Nolan. So it's almost like they're treating their audience as stupid by going, hey, you guys don't know how Batman became, Batman, right? Here, I'll show you twice. And
maybe their audience is stupid.
Well, I mean, we're going to find out. Now, this comic book movie feels like it's not for comic book fans. And what I mean by that is, everyone knows the names Batman and Superman. So the premise of them fighting is intriguing to everyone, right? Wow, these 2 icons, I thought they were both good guys. That's going to give them a lot of sales, but like I said, it's going to lack the replayability because unlike fans of Avengers, who are going to see it 4 times, their ticket sales, like you said, they're going to be good for one weekend, maybe good for another week or 2, and then just drop because people are done, over.
And I think it's going to kill their brand because, that cool DC logo with the turned back page for a C, if that is let's say this is the first big one they're going to release. Let's just brush off Man of Steel. Let's say this is the big one.
Can we please brush off Man of Steel? That was garbage.
If I could just get was that a 2.5 hour movie?
Yeah, a little shy of 2.5 hours.
If I could just get that money back, because I paid like $14 to see that movie in 3D. If I could get that back, I could be more forgiving. But fuck that movie. Anyway, my point is, this is your jumping on point for a bigger thing. If it's so fucking boring and bad, you're not going to get back on the ride. It's like if you rode a roller coaster and you fucking got a Charlie horse from, it jerked you around too much. You're not going to go back and say, that pain was worth it. Let me experience it again. No, you want a nice, smooth ride, and then if it was so much fun, you'll do it again.
Right, and I doubt that's going to happen here because a thing that I feared when I learned the runtime, and a thing that's popping up time after time in these reviews, is it feels far too long, noticeably too long. Like you're ready for it to be over. Nope, you got another 45 minutes to deal with this.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, not for a film, like for me, Watchmen. Yeah, it's 3 hours, but it's paced well. I'm invested the whole time, and I can watch that movie over and over and over again. Never once in any of my dozens of viewing of Watchmen did I ever go, I'm ready for it to be over. But what people are consistently saying here is, man, this could have been an hour and 45-minute film, and it would have been just fine.
See, I love Watchmen. I mean, I'm not as down on it as the average person, but I'm also not as kind towards it as you. But I still like it. I own it. I think it's a very good movie. One of Zack Snyder's best. Probably my second favorite one. But that movie has so many layers, and it works that you would do a flashback. Like when the Dr. Manhattan scene, isn't that like 15 minutes long?
Oh my God, yeah. It plays pure ego and just that bombastic classical piece as he's transforming and becoming essentially God.
But that makes sense because there's a lot there. Batman and Superman aren't deep characters like any of the Watchmen. I mean, Watchmen is supposed to be superheroes deconstructed. Batman's supposed to be just pure superhero fun. And yes, I said fun and Batman in the same sentence. There is nothing wrong with getting enjoyment out of a Batman flick. I think The Dark Knight is to blame for this general idea that DC has about superhero flicks. But at the same time, I think it's done as much good as it has done bad. Because it was a great movie. It's widely praised. People love that whole trilogy. But I think Batman Begins is more fun, and people have lost sight of that film because of Heath Ledger and the success at the box office that The Dark Knight has made.
Right, and speaking of Watchmen compared to Batman and Superman, I mean, there are Batman and Superman in that film deconstructed, showing the other side to it. And in these films, because they're not going to be deconstruction, they need to take the regular modern view of them and take it to 11. Have them be good for the sake of good. Have them not be whining and brooding all the time. Save that for a serious film, because I have a hard time taking Batman versus Superman seriously. I don't know. What are your thoughts exactly?
Well, you mentioned brooding, and I'd like to tell you that Daredevil Season 2, which I just finished, has a lot of brooding, but damn it, is it perfect. And it's realistically, it's a 13-hour film, because it's not like a TV show where a big amount of time passes between each episode. Just kind of, you can't really determine that. No, Daredevil's just essentially just a concise amount of time. And Daredevil broods, but it doesn't feel angsty like a lot of these other superhero things do. And I think Daredevil is essentially Marvel's Batman, and it wouldn't hurt to see Batman on a lower level. We don't have to see Batman dealing with like
End of the world type scenario.
yeah, he's okay like Spider-Man. Batman shouldn't be dealing with gods and crazy monsters. He should just be fighting the Joker, the Riddler. Batman is a cerebral superhero. He should be dealing with. Okay, for example, sorry to go off on a tangent, but Batman, the newest game, Arkham Knight. That is the perfect representation of Batman. There's action, there's excitement, but there's also like puzzle solving. And Batman is the world's greatest detective. That needs to all be encompassed here. It's not like this dark moment, you know? Maybe Batman lives in a dark world and he has a dark character, but it's not all dark situations, you know?
Right.
And Superman is like a bastion of light. Like, you're supposed to look up in the sky at Superman and be excited, not, oh, here's Superman. Let's talk about Jesus.
Right. And that's another thing that popped up. I mean, let's go over these common things. They said that Superman is essentially Jesus in this movie. I'm fine with Christian iconography. You know, I grew up with it. I like certain Jesus characters. Isn't that really Superman, though? I mean, did he ever come across as a reluctant messiah in the comics? Or is this a Zack Snyder thing? You would know better than I do.
Well, I mean, I like Superman in general, but I'm not a very big Superman fan to where I can tell you years and years of history of Superman. In the beginning, no. If anything, he was more Moses than Jesus, because he's created by two Jewish guys, first off, Siegel and Schuster, right here in Ohio. So they're not thinking of Jesus as this great idea. And the reason Superman's actually bulletproof is because I believe it was the writer's dad was shot and killed in a robbery, and that's kind of like him projecting his wishes, what his dad could survive, and putting on to Superman. So it's not like they just took this Jesus thing and use it. I think the Christ metaphor comes from the Richard Donner Superman on. So from 1978 to now, it's been more of a Christ thing. And even in some of the comics, there's like hidden messages. There's an old Superman comic, and I don't know the issue number. It's him and Captain Marvel on the cover. And if you pay it, and they're in the city, and certain signs are obscure, but if you read the words that are not obscured, it says "He, Jesus, Jew." And I have a picture I'll show you later of it. So after that movie came out, they're laying it on thick. But I don't like it. I always like that Superman's just a good guy to help us out and help us through the problems that we can't get through by ourselves.
Right. He should be more of a god than a Jesus. He should be more deity than man. And I think what Snyder's doing is he's trying to humanize him almost too much. Superman will never be a regular person. And for someone who has all these powers and all this responsibility, we see other superheroes struggle. Right, with are they doing the right thing? Like Tony Stark, I was watching Age of Ultron, and he's struggling with these big decisions because as a man, he's like, can I carry the weight of the world on my shoulders? That should be a non-issue for Superman. And the fact that they're going to have him go through and struggle with, should I save a bus of drowning kids? Should I save my dad? Like, these seem like non-issues for somebody who can do anything and not get hurt by it.
And I think they took away the ability for this Superman to be believable or human, they took away a secret identity of Clark Kent. That's one of the things that Superman, Batman, Spider-Man all have, is the duality of their superhero personas and their, I guess, code names. Or, I mean, because Clark Kent's not even his real name, it's Kal-El. But in the old films, and in Superman in general, it was always Clark Kent had his life, and he had to keep a secret identity, and then he was Superman. They took that away. They took away the aspect of, like, a big chunk of what Superman is. He's got to keep it hidden. Now, people are just like, oh, hey, Lois knows it. I guess Zack Snyder was so worried about people laughing at the absurd things that the average fan doesn't complain about, and he just ruined it and put other baggage with the movie.
And that's what I'm saying. If you're going to go with a straightforward, these are good guys, we're not going to deconstruct it, we're going to play it as is, then go all the way with it. Don't, like you said, deconstruct, well, how come nobody knows? And then still try to humanize him, like all or nothing. And if he's removing certain parts that humanize him, he's never. I get why. I guess the reviewers are saying that Snyder doesn't know how to handle him. And in fact, so one reviewer said that it seems like he hates him, and maybe it's because he doesn't understand how to make him an actual film character.
I think I agree 100% with you. I also think a bigger problem is Zack Snyder himself. He was given a lot of freedom from Warner Brothers due to the success of movies like 300 and Watchmen. And I mean, I guess Sucker Punch was mildly successful. I haven't seen it. I don't really like Zack Snyder outside of Watchmen and Dawn of the Dead. But I don't think he is an actual storyteller. He's just a visual storyteller, which is cool. But I think Zack Snyder needs to be like if you even have assistant directors, like have a guy like Nolan worry about the story, and then have Zack Snyder worry about the visuals, and have them work together. I'm all about. I think sometimes you need checks and balances, and when you have someone with all that power, that's when you have a bigger problem.
And that's some other reviewers I saw is that he's trying his darndest to be Nolan, but he's just not Nolan. He's not the same, like you said, type of storyteller. He takes the parts that makes Nolan great and removes all the nuances that he can't do himself, and what you're left with is just an empty copycat that fails to invoke and evoke the same feelings as what he's trying to emulate.
And I don't think that you've had a chance to restart all these characters. Don't just copy what came before. This is a bad example, but it kind of works. So Spider-Man. A lot of people don't like the Sam Raimi movies. I fucking love them. Spider-Man 2 is my favorite. But they had something that works. Then they try to make it like The Dark Knight, and it fails. You have a chance to have The Dark Knight and then create something else, and maybe that something else would be as influential as The Dark Knight. You never know. But you exploded on the launch pad. It's almost too late now.
Right. And we're not telling you guys, you fans, you awesome fans, that not to go see the film, because that'd be hypocritical. Jeff, I know you and the guys are going to go see it Thursday. My wife and siblings and I are going to go see it Friday. We're just trying to temper your expectations. So you go in expecting a C- movie. Because if you go in expecting an A, I can almost guarantee you're going to walk out disappointed. So if you adjust your expectations, which we're trying to help you with, you might enjoy it more. And isn't that the goal of film, is just to enjoy it?
Oh, yeah. I've used this argument before to defend bad actors. If anyone's ever heard of that video Garbage Day on YouTube, that movie's terrible. It's called Silent Night, Deadly Night 2. Terrible film. But it's entertaining, so I consider that a success. If I can watch something and be entertained for an hour, 2 hours, whatever, hell, even 3 hours, it's a success. If I'm sitting in a theater looking at my watch going, okay, how much longer is left? What am I going to talk about on this podcast? It's not that big of a success. I mean, I walked out of Mad Max, mind blown. Couldn't wait to, see it again.
And that's because you went in with your expectations in check. You weren't expecting, an Oscar-worthy film. And that's exactly what you got. And how much better did that feel going in not thinking it's going to be great and being proven wrong?
Well, off that, it made Mad Max one of my favorite movie-going experiences. I said The Avengers is my favorite. Mad Max is up there. I was just like, my mouth was open like, oh, the whole time. It was fucking awesome. Why? I still don't know why people are so pumped. Like, I know a guy who's a filmmaker. He's a really great dude. But he bought an entire row of seats for this movie. He's like, I'm going to cry when I see the credits. He just is so, in denial of any kind of criticism about this film. And I think he's going to tell himself he likes this film to, I guess stay sane. But I think deep down he's going to know it's a failure.
Right. And from all the reviews I've read, and we've gone through all morning just dissecting these and trying to pull out certain parts, there doesn't seem to be anything that anyone is going to like. I mean, all the complaints touch in every type of filmmaker. If you like the big explosions and all that, this says there are plenty of explosions, but the way it's filmed is ridiculous. They're doing the handheld, shaky. The framing's all weird. If you go for a good story, they say it doesn't have a good story. They say that the basic premise is ridiculous because it could have been solved with a conversation. If you're going for sex appeal, you're not going to find that because, one, Gal Gadot is a twig. And two, it's just the things that make, in most films, you can find one thing and pull from it and go, despite all else, I really enjoyed that. I have not found one thing in any review that says, here's the glimmer of hope, the shining light.
Yeah, I watched actually a few reviews that said, oh, Ben Affleck is great, but then I won't spoil this. He does some things that are very un-Batman-like.
Oh, that's the thing I saw too. It said that these characters are just making inexplicable choices for, one, their characters, and two, for human beings in general. Now, that's a problem. If you have Batman one of the world's smartest people. He's logical. He's tactical. He's the last person in any film that should just be making irrational, spur-of-the-moment decisions.
You know, Batman's the smartest guy in the room with a contingency plan for everything. Not, I'm going to just act on my emotions.
Right, and so I guess if you're going to take anything away from this review, this collection of reviews that we found, and of course tomorrow night you guys can expect the World Class Bullshitters review from Jeff and the gang. It's that Snyder, and I love him. I love 300. I love Watchmen, obviously. I really liked Sucker Punch. And Dawn of the Dead is my favorite zombie film. But he just doesn't know how to handle these characters, and I guess it's going to really shine through, which is unfortunate because it is called Batman and Superman, and he doesn't handle either correctly.
And it's really, I don't know how you can fuck up Batman. Batman is not a hard character to, like, interpret. Anyone could understand him. So, I mean, a child understands. At 5 years old, I understood why Batman did what he did, and I understood what he does. You know, he's not a Wolverine that's just going to go in there and slice dudes up. I just don't know why a 42 or 45-year-old man like Zack Snyder with hundreds of millions of dollars behind him can't adapt the character. Like, what? Is this guy, like, is he, like, 13 mentally? Does he only get, like, certain things like, oh, the raw explosions and shit like that?
Oh, don't compare it to Michael Bay, because that's what it sounded like.
Oh, he's the Michael Bay of superheroes, and he's going to create shit films that made a lot of money. Now, Dustin, did you grow up liking Batman and Superman?
Not Superman. I always had kind of an aversion to him just because what I knew about him didn't sound very interesting. But
have you ever heard of they actually did an animated series of Superman in the 90s, and they had 3 episodes called World's Finest. Have you ever heard of that?
I know the name.
Well, it's an episode where Batman and Superman team up for the first time, and it is perfect. I bought it on VHS as a kid. I bought it on DVD as an adult, and I still watch it. Basically, it's the story of Lex Luthor and Joker teaming up, and they need Batman and Superman to come together to defeat them. Why couldn't we get something like that? I mean, we all saw the trailer. We know that's Doomsday in the movie. What fucking purpose does he have? You always use this example. You tell a good joke, but then you add one more beat and you ruin it.
Yep.
Doomsday's one more beat. It sounds like there's multiple more beats that just kill it. Like, why is Doomsday in this movie?
Well, I also want to know why Wonder Woman randomly shows up.
I guess they feel like they're either going to try to one-up Marvel and say, hey, we got a better female character, or 2, they're just rushing it. I've heard there's an ending. I don't know the truth, but I heard there's an ending that just basically tells you the Justice League is coming, and it makes no sense.
Well, I read that, and I think I found 3 that talk about the Justice League forming inside this film specifically.
Wait,
without giving away spoilers, they say it's a really anticlimactic setup and really expository.
Wait, so, I actually didn't know this until right now. They actually set up the Justice League in this movie?
What? I don't want to give too many spoilers because I was kind of pissed when I read them myself. There is a character that goes through, and I don't want to spoil. Okay, Lex Luthor goes.
Wait, what? Okay, I'm not even hamming it up for the fucking camera. What?
Yep.
Oh my god! That is so retarded, holy shit! That is so fucking dumb! Why?
Yep. I don't know.
I like comic books. Why do they not want me to like this movie?
Why is Lex Luthor a long-haired little scrawny-ass hippie?
Why is it Jesse Eisenberg? Why don't they just... I guess Zack Snyder's like, we're trying to change it up and make it different. No, make Lex Luthor a 6-foot-tall, mildly buffed... not him. Anyway, just make him a bald, buff guy. And make him powerful. The Kingpin and Daredevil, you feared that dude. When he's on screen, that's the first person you pay attention to. Make Lex Luthor that dude. Because I always said Lex Luthor was like the king of Metropolis, and... he only had to look up to Superman, who was a god, and he hated having to look up to him. I think that's like why he hates him.
Right. It seems like this Lex Luthor incarnation is Joker. You got the long-haired, crazy guy who's actually really intelligent, but he's socially inept. He's weird. He's scrawny. We already have another Joker. It's that cross-dresser, the guy from 30 Seconds from Mars. What the fuck?
Oh, Jared Leto.
Jared Leto. I mean, I don't know.
I don't even think he's going to be good. Like I said, I think Suicide Squad is going to get a lot of praise because it's different and new, and then everyone's going to kiss Wonder Woman's ass because it's going to be like Ghostbusters, where if you say you don't like it, oh, you're a sexist piece of shit, which fuck these SJW people. You know what? You should be able to criticize a movie without having to be labeled as something, you know?
What makes our country great, and I don't mean to sound so patriotic, but you can say what you want without the government backlashing. But what's happening now is society at large is going, okay, the government's not going to punish you for saying what I don't want to hear, so we are. And then they gang up and they call you names and they try to blacklist you and all this other shit, and I'm sick of it. I want to go to a film. I want to watch it. First and foremost, I want to enjoy it. But if I can't enjoy it, I want to have the right to say why I didn't enjoy it, what in particular I didn't enjoy, and I should be able to do those things without being ganged up on and called sexist, homophobe, racist, all these other just random echo chamber words.
I think it's because those people don't have a way to defend what they like, so they just throw out a big word at a blanket offensive term because they're just too small-minded to actually come up with a retort for what you have to say.
Right.
That's a problem we cover on our whole channel, and we'll get into that later. But, Dustin, I'm very happy to say I told you so, but at the same time, I'm kind of hurt.
Right. I was hoping to go in Friday, 4:30, M89 Cinema, $2.50 tickets. And I was hoping to come out going, you know what? I feel bad that World Class Bullshitters has been shitting on this film. But from all accounts, from everything I've read, everything you've watched and read, we were right. Duh.
And you know what? I'll tell the listeners something I only told my mom yesterday. I'm driving her downtown, and I said to her, Mom, I got to tell you something. She goes, what? I said, I'm actually really excited for Batman vs. Superman because deep down, I always loved Batman, and I just want a cool Batman. I want to know that more Batman's on its way, and I don't have to wait 8 years. And she goes, that's good, honey. It might be good. You never know. But I do know now. I do now know, and it's just depressing.
And so do the listeners. So listeners, go see the film. Figure it out for yourself because, hey, there might be something you enjoy from it. And if you find something you enjoy, make sure to let us know. But we're just trying to help you out. Do you remember Mad TV, Jeff?
Oh, of course. I watched it every week.
Do you remember, was it Lowered
Expectations?
Essentially, that's what this podcast is. We're going to lower your expectations, and who knows, maybe you won't regret spending $2.50 a ticket like I am, or $14 like you are.
Oh, God. I only have the IMAX experience choices, so good job, Warner Brothers. You're going to stroke me for $20.
Well, fans, of course, if you're going to see the film tomorrow night, make sure that when you're done, one, to look for our own review of it, and two, give us your thoughts. I mean, we're very open to reading whatever comes across. We're very open to people disagreeing with us because, I mean, we're not right all the time, about 98% of the time.
Ooh, that's a little too generous. I was going to go with 97.5, but hey.
Oh, there you go. You're a better man than I am. But if you're to say, you know, Facebook, Twitter, mail.com, or, of course, YouTube, feel free to chime in and let us know. And we will read pretty much everything that we get because we want you guys to feel involved. You guys are what makes us set aside, you know, chunks of our week. And we love you guys. You guys are awesome. Make sure to comment, subscribe. Jeff, do you have anything else?
Listeners, though this film may be a piece of shit and mild or possibly disappointing, just remember, in less than 2 months, Civil War will be out.
Ooh-wee.